His voice is a hoarse roar, his gaze burning, piercing. He can be the king of the criminal underworld, a lonely policeman, a blind veteran, or a desperate comedian. Alfredo James Pacino, or simply Al Pacino, is not just an actor, he is a living legend whose career, spanning over half a century, has become synonymous with unparalleled acting prowess, intensity, and unpredictability. But do you know the price paid for this mad brilliance? The story of his rise is a journey from absolute poverty and despair to the heights of Hollywood, a path that exposes all the dark corners and challenges that one of the greatest stars of all time had to overcome. Prepare to dive into the depths of Al Pacino's soul, where every scream and every whisper on screen is an echo of his own, equally dramatic, reality. Al Pacino's path to fame was far from glamorous. He was born on April 25, 1940, in the South Bronx, New York, to Italian immigrant parents, Salvatore and Rose Pacino. When he was only 2 years old, his parents divorced, and Al remained with his mother and grandparents in East Harlem. It was an area fraught with hardship, poverty, and crime. The family lived very modestly, barely making ends meet. Alfredo grew up a street kid, often getting into fights and minor trouble. He described himself as a restless and problematic student. He had no interest in school, and his only passion was movies. He skipped classes to watch films, and even then, he felt a magnetic pull toward acting. At the age of 17, after failing almost all his subjects, Al dropped out of school. This decision became the final break with his mother, who had hoped he would get an education. The next few years were a period of real hardship. He worked low-paying jobs: cleaner, postman, messenger. He often slept on the streets or on friends' couches. Sometimes he even lived in theater basements, just to be close to the stage. Poverty was a constant companion, but despite everything, he never gave up his dream of becoming an actor. This aspiration was so strong that he would practice for hours in front of a mirror, imitating the heroes he saw on screen, dreaming of one day taking their place. The real breakthrough in his acting education came when he joined the renowned Herbert Berghof studio, HB Studio. And then, in 1966, the legendary Actors Studio, where he studied under Lee Strasberg himself. This was the golden age of method acting, a system that demands the actor's deep immersion in the character's psychology, using personal experiences and emotions. Al Pacino was an ideal student for this approach. He absorbed knowledge like a sponge, and his natural intensity and emotional openness found their perfect expression in this technique. Theater became his first true home. By the late 1960s, he had already made a name for himself on the New York stage, earning prestigious Obie Awards for his work in off-Broadway productions. His role in the play The Indian Wants the Bronx, 1968, attracted critical attention and brought him recognition. He performed with such passion and dedication that it was impossible to notice his talent. This success in theater gave him not only self-confidence but also his first chance to prove himself on the big screen. His first film roles were small, but even then, he demonstrated his unique charisma. His real debut can be considered the film The Panic in Needle Park, 1971, where he played a drug addict. His realistic and painful performance caught the attention of Francis Ford Coppola, who was looking for an actor to play Michael Corleone in his epic-making film The Godfather, 1972. Coppola's decision to cast the relatively unknown Al Pacino was met with strong resistance from Paramount Pictures, which wanted a more famous actor in the lead role, such as Robert Redford or Ryan O'Neal. However, Coppola desperately fought for Pacino, seeing in him precisely the restrained yet profound intensity needed to transform Michael from an innocent son into a ruthless mob boss. This struggle became a Hollywood legend. The result? The Godfather became not just a film, but a cultural phenomenon, and Al Pacino, a global star. His Michael Corleone was a masterpiece of restraint and internal conflict. This role earned him his first Academy Award nomination, but also forever made him Michael Corleone in the eyes of millions. It was a mark he carried throughout his life. The 1970s became a golden decade for Al Pacino, a period when he established himself as one of the greatest actors of his generation. After The Godfather, he starred in a series of films that are now considered classics. Serpico, 1973, the role of an honest police officer fighting corruption earned him his second Academy Award nomination. The Godfather Part 2, 1974, for this role as Michael Corleone, who becomes increasingly ruthless. Al Pacino received another Academy Award nomination. Many critics consider this performance the peak of his acting career. Dog Day Afternoon, 1975. This story of a botched bank robbery was a triumph of his acting skill. His Sonny Wurtzek is a mix of despair, humor, and vulnerability, which earned him his fourth Academy Award nomination. And Justice for All, 1979, another Academy Award nomination for his role as a lawyer disillusioned with the system. During this period, Al Pacino masterfully alternated roles of strong, often morally ambiguous men who fought against the system or their own demons. His acting was at its peak of intensity, immersion, and emotional depth. He became the face of New Hollywood, which moved away from traditional heroes to more complex and realistic characters. The 1980s began with significant challenges for Al Pacino. Films such as Cruising, 1980, and Revolution, 1985, were met with mixed or even disastrous critical reception. Revolution in particular was a commercial and critical failure, prompting Pacino to take a 4-year hiatus from film. Some believed his career was fading. However, 1983 marked a turning point with the film Scarface, directed by Brian De Palma. The role of the brutal Cuban drug lord Tony Montana was filled with such intensity and hyperbole that it divided audiences and critics. Some found it excessive, others, brilliant. The film initially received mixed reviews but later became a cult classic, and the image of Tony Montana, one of the most famous in his career. His lines, such as "Say hello to my little friend," entered pop culture. This role showed that Pacino was capable of playing characters on the verge of madness, and he did it with unparalleled skill. In the late 1980s and the 1990s, Al Pacino's career experienced a magnificent revival. He returned to the big screen with renewed vigor and more diverse roles, proving that his acting skills knew no bounds. Sea of Love, 1989, this thriller became a commercial success. Dick Tracy, 1990. His role as the criminal big boy earned him an Academy Award nomination. The Godfather Part 3, 1990. His return to the role of Michael Corleone was an emotional and dramatic conclusion to the trilogy. Frankie and Johnny, 1991, a romantic drama with Michelle Pfeiffer, where he showed his tender side. And finally, Scent of a Woman, 1992, it was for the role of the blind, cynical Colonel Frank Slade that Al Pacino received his long-awaited Academy Award for Best Actor. His legendary tango dance and poignant monologues became some of the most memorable moments of the film. This victory became a symbol of recognition for his long-standing, incredible talent. This was followed by Carlito's Way, 1993, and The Epical Heat, 1995, which for the first time brought Al Pacino and Robert De Niro together on screen in the same scene, and their acting confrontation became legendary. His ability to combine deep, introverted calm with sudden, explosive bursts of emotion made him unique. It was this unpredictability, this fire within, that always drew audiences to his characters, regardless of their moral essence. He didn't just play roles, he lived them, immersing himself in their core to such an extent that the line between actor and character almost disappeared. This demanded immense personal sacrifice, and Pacino himself often admitted that some roles left a deep imprint on his psyche. However, it was this willingness to give himself completely to each role that allowed him to create unforgettable characters that continue to resonate with millions, influencing subsequent generations of actors. Off-screen, Al Pacino is known for his penchant for privacy. He rarely gives interviews and leads a rather secluded life, protecting his personal space from intrusive press attention. This, perhaps, is part of his method to preserve emotional depth for his roles, without dissipating it on social gatherings. Although he has never been married, he has 3 children from different relationships. He has always emphasized that his children are the greatest treasure in his life. Despite all his fame, he remained faithful to his theatrical roots, occasionally returning to the Broadway stage, where his passion for acting never fades. For him, theater is not just a job, but a true calling, a place where he can feel an immediate connection with the audience and truly unleash his energy. This has allowed him to maintain a high level of acting skill, despite the changing trends of Hollywood.
Al Pacino's career, spanning over 5 decades, is a phenomenon.
He is one of the few actors who have managed to maintain their relevance and demand for such a long time.
His influence on cinema is immense.
He was one of the key actors who shaped the face of New Hollywood in the 1970s, bringing complex, ambiguous, but incredibly realistic characters to the screen. Today, despite his venerable age, Al Pacino continues to star in films and perform in theater, proving that his passion for acting has not faded. His roles in films such as The Irishman, 2019, and House of Gucci, 2021, show that he is still capable of brilliant performances. The story of Al Pacino is a story of struggle, resilience, an unbreakable belief in his talent, and a relentless pursuit of excellence. He went from a destitute boy from Harlem to one of the greatest actors of all time, whose name is forever etched in the history of cinema. His gaze needs no words to convey pain, anger, love, or despair. He simply exists. And that is enough to make millions around the world freeze before their screens, watching the mad brilliance of a genius who emerged from the shadows and conquered the world stage.